What's going on, guys? My name is Valued, and today we are breaking down how you can close out more games and take home more dubs. Getting to the top 5 can be tough, but closing out the game can be even tougher. But by the end of this video, you're going to have a clear template that you can follow to help you close out those last couple squads and take home the win. Thank you guys for all the support recently, it means so much to us, but without further ado, let's get right into the video. So first, we've got to touch on a few things throughout a match that will keep you from even reaching this stage of your games. We're going to take a deep look at those final few moments, but we'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't take time to analyze what it takes to put yourself in a winning situation. If you're looking to win more games, whether you're grinding ranked or just practicing in pubs, you need to be building towards that late game in every single match that you play. Actually making it into the top 5 and getting a shot at the win should be your biggest priority, not getting 20 kills in a match. Rather than looking for early action, you should be looking for early loot and map positioning. But this isn't to say that you shouldn't fight early on. If you need to defend your landing spot or you get pushed by a team, take that fight and win it. But in my opinion, you shouldn't be seeking out POIs with a bunch of other teams. The chances of dying when you're dropping with 4 other squads are so much higher than dropping uncontested or even with just one other squad. While it can be nice to take a fight or two in the earlier stages of a game to charge your Evo and get some extra loot, usually you really don't have to go looking very far to find some fights. With 20 squads maneuvering around the map, you will almost always come across a squad or two, whether you catch them by surprise or they push you for giving them the side eye. Either way, guys, the point here is that the fight comes to you without you needing to seek it out. Rather than focusing on eliminating other teams constantly as a way of reaching top 5, let them duke it out over the course of a game while you focus on good ring positioning and defending yourself. And guys, I can promise you, even with this mindset, you'll still get the jump on a squad or two for some easy kills throughout a match. Okay guys, so I mentioned good ring positioning, and I can't stress enough how this is the #1 aspect of a player's game that they overlook when questioning why they aren't winning more. We've all been in a spot where we're held by an enemy team after we try to make a late rotation with the zone closing in on us. And you guys know it as well as I do, you can feel pretty hopeless in some of these situations. But most of the time, this can be completely avoided by planning ahead and putting your game focus on your positioning rather than fighting or overlooting. Having early ring positioning on the dead side of zone with a strong power position can make the game so much easier, and guys, I cannot stress it enough. We're not going to spend too much time discussing it here, but you should definitely go check out our zone rotation guide that we made on Sunday, where we took a deep dive into everything you need to know about rotations and how to predict the zone's movement. But the general theme here is to make rotations your biggest focus in a match. You should look to be the first squad occupying the skinny side of zone, also known as the dead side, and secure a power position in this area. This process should be continued throughout the match, especially in the final few circles if you want to set yourself up for success. Even without these mindsets, many of us will still make it to the top 5 of some of our games. But guys, the goal is to get to that point as much as possible and give yourself as many shots as you can at getting wins. And speaking of getting wins, guys, a pretty straight shot to get more wins is setting up a coaching session at ProGuides.com. Seriously guys, these are some of the best players in the world, and they have so much game knowledge and experience to help you level up your game instantly. The link will be in the description below. All right, guys, so let's say you made it to the top 5 and you're in an ideal situation with good loot, decent positioning, and your whole squad is still up. Now what? Well, with all the variables in Apex, there's no way we could discuss all your options here, but what we can do is talk about some of the best practices and approaches to these game situations. There's a ton of tips and mindsets that you could adopt to help you consistently come out on top in these high-stress moments. So let's touch on just a few of them. All throughout the game, and especially in the later stages, you should be mapping out enemy locations based on visual and audio cues. If you hear gunshots, you should be mentally mapping out the location the shots are coming from and take note of how those teams could advance on you. Your goal here isn't to fight all these teams, but rather keep track of the likely routes they could take to rotate into circle or just to come third-party you. As you make it into the top 5, your goal is to use this type of info to know where every single team is located. As the ending stages of the game progress, constantly updating your knowledge of enemy team locations will help you make smarter decisions and be prepared for every situation. This will keep you from over-pushing into bad situations, from getting third-partied, and will just give you a full understanding on where the game stands and what options are available to your squad. Making a mental tally of these enemy locations will also help you in deciding your rotations in the final couple of circles. While the last few circles especially can feel a little bit random, you can usually do a pretty good job of predicting zone rotations. Once you have made these predictions, you should really attempt to be the first team to make decisions based on that info. Many other teams will have a similar mindset to their positioning, so the last thing you want to do is wait too long just for another team to take your brilliant planned position to rule the next circle. If another team makes it to these areas first, well, there's a reason they call it a power position. You want to be sure you're cautious but confident once you have enough information to be comfortable. Most of your movements on the map will always be better if you don't hesitate. On the flip side from power positions, sometimes laying low and showing a little bit of restraint is not a bad thing. In the final stages of the game, it's often in your best interest to just let enemies fight. If you see a team getting pushed, you can always third-party the situation and clean up the fight. But sadly, sometimes this just leads to you getting ganked and dying with them. When the number of squads starts to drop to 5 and below, teams can get anxious about closing out the game and often look to third party. You can use this to your advantage and try to be the last squad in the area of danger that commits to a fight. Don't be the team flying in on your jump pad to clean up an enemy or two that are stuck healing just to get wipes and throw your game. Those couple kills are not worth giving up the win, and all the careful planning and thought that you've put into the game to make it this far can just go right out the window. Don't get me wrong, third partying is a great way to close out matches, but if you give away a good ring position and get held by the final team and lose, were those couple kills really worth it? Another thing you've got to make sure is worth it is your damage trades. While it's great to get that poke damage or finish charging up your red Evo, all too often I see players letting me constantly deal damage to them from afar until they straight up just run out of heals. No amount of poke damage is worth you running out of heals to the point where you can't even get yourself topped again. You don't want to be that person asking the whole team for bats or cells because you're taking a bunch of damage. Make sure you're dishing out more damage than you're receiving, and even if you can hit those shots, keep an eye on how many heals you have and don't overdo it before the real fight begins. Speaking of the real fight, make sure you're holding certain key abilities until you really need them. The best example of this is Gibraltar's Bubble and Ultimate. Having these abilities up when another Gibby or Bang ult your squad, or you're getting pushed, can be a lifesaver. But if you get spooked early and toss it down in response to just some poke from an enemy squad, you're showing the enemy that your resources are down, and good players will take advantage of this. Almost every legend has abilities that can be better if they're held for specific instances. But just keep a level head on what your threats are and what your Legends kit brings to the situation, and you'll find yourself having a lot more clutch ability usage. Alright guys, of course we've got to talk about that legendary situation when there are 3 squads left. It's just your team and 2 enemy squads. Who's going to make the first move? Well, honestly, usually it's best for that not to be you. Oftentimes, the most patient squads win these late game situations, because if 2 of the teams start fighting with the third squad in range to be the third party, they will usually come and clean up the fight. This is obviously a pretty big generalization, but regardless, it holds true in most scenarios. Your focus in these situations should be to maintain the best ring position in the lobby. If you constantly have high ground or you're not having to outrun the ring, you'll automatically have a huge advantage. The less variables you have to worry about, the better, and being comfortable with your position on the map can really smooth out your decision making. Your goal after gaining this positioning is to hold your ground and try to force the other teams to fight each other. You do not want to commit to any fights at this stage, but rather exert pressure from your power position and wait until the enemy team fights each other due to how tight the ring is getting. If they commit to fighting each other, your job is to be there to clean up the fight, or continue holding the final team with your superior ring position. If you end up being the one that's pushed, then you should be able to use your power positioning to defend yourself. The goal is to make your squad a hard team to fight, and wait until the easier squads start their fighting. At the end of the day, guys, it's really just a big mind game. Alright guys, I could talk about late game decision making all day, but I think we've covered enough that everybody who watched this should be able to apply at least some of this to their game and find a lot of success instantly. Let me know in the comment section below something you learned today, or if you had this all down, then let us know some of your late game tips that could help people in the comments. Anyway, guys, my name has been Valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.